Hello everyone. So let's start today's session. Hope you all are doing well. So today we'll discuss the topic fiscal policy in our economy. So before we going to start, let me show you some questions which have already been asked by UPSC with respect to fiscal policy. So this is the first question. What is the meaning of fiscal policy? Now, this question is not asked in UPSC prelims, but UPSC it is not asked in civil services examination, but this has been asked in Indian Engineering Service, the same body which conducts this Indian Engineering Service as well as your civil service. So we can expect such kind of questions because the same body is framing the questions. Okay. So what is the meaning of fiscal policy? 4 options have been given and you just try to find out what should be its answer. Okay. Let me read the first statement. First statement is balancing the revenue collection and expenditure. Second, establishing equilibrium between demand and supply of goods and services. Third, use of taxation, public borrowing and public expenditure by government for purposes of stabilization or development. D, deficiency as an instrument of growth. So these are 4 options which have been given. So just try to find out what should be the answer. If you are not able to solve it, we'll discuss at the end of our session, we'll discuss what should be the right answer. Now, moving to another kind of similar question, again asked by UPSC. Let's see. Fiscal policy in India is formulated by the Reserve Bank of India, the Planning Commission, which is again, it's not there. Now this has been replaced by Niti Aayog. I think you all are aware about it. The third is the Finance Ministry. And the fourth, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. Again, this board is dealing with the financial market. Okay. So if you are able to solve it, then it's fine. If you are not, then we'll again come to this question after end of this session. I am just showing the kind of questions UPSC is asking. Yes, this is the third question asked by UPSC. I have taken the last 10 years question paper, not before that. So in that 10 years question paper, you just see how many questions they have asked from this particular topic. And this is the third question. Consider the following statements. The Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee report has recommended a debt to GDP ratio 60% for the general, that is combined government by 2023, comprising 40 by the central and 20 by the state government. The central government has domestic liabilities of 21% of GDP as compared to that of 49% of GDP of the state governments. This was a question purely based on the current affairs. This is a question purely based on the current affairs. Because I think you must have that idea, 2003 FRBM Act was there and one committee was constituted by the government to review this act. And this is a question for you, just find out the chairperson of that committee, because this committee was constituted to review this 2003 FRBM Act or Fiscal Responsibility Budgetary Management Act. To review this act, which was which came into operation in 2003, name the chairperson of that committee. Just find it out. Okay. So this question was based on that committee's recommendation. So what lesson it's going to tell us that whatever committee is there, if any significant committee is in news, just try to read those broad recommendations, okay, because it is necessary for you, because they are asking it in the question paper. Now, moving to the third question. With reference to India's decision to levy an equalization tax of 6% on the online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities, which of the following statements are correct? It's a topic again from current affairs. But if you read the starting portion of this fiscal policy, you will definitely able to answer it. What should be the answer? Again, we'll discuss after end of our session. Okay. So just try to read what kind of questions they are asking. That is my purpose, to show you these questions of previous year. Again, which of the following circumstances may capital gains arise? This is a topic, capital gains tax. It was asked by UPSC. Again, it was under the GST. What is the implication of GST? What are the benefits of GST? That has been asked by UPSC in 2017. Clear? So these are some of the questions asked by UPSC from this fiscal policy chapter. We need to discuss thoroughly, because I have already shown you that the importance of this particular topic, because we need to study it. Now, let's start discussing this topic, fiscal policy. Fiscal policy. So if you have any doubt, you can put your query in the WhatsApp group. Here this device is in front of me, so I can see it. I will be able to answer that. Okay. So fiscal policy in India. First is, what are the functions of the government? I think if you have that idea, before this welfare state or the concept of welfare state, you have this police state. What is the difference between that? Police state means simply the role of the state or the government is to maintain the law and order. All the welfare activities will be taken care of by the market. It was the idea of police state. But now this police state to welfare state. What is the idea of this welfare state? That government's role is not limited to maintaining this law and order, but it has something to do beyond this. So what is that role? Role means for the welfare of people. Then if the objective is the welfare of the people, then how government can achieve that role, that is your welfare of the people, that we need to discuss. Now, before that, I have written the heading fiscal policy. I think you must have read somewhere in your book or from any notes. There are two kinds of policies generally we find. One is your monetary policy, another one is your fiscal policy. So monetary policy is related to all the banking and the financial institutions are concerned. Fiscal policy simply means the role of the government, or simply just I told you to fulfill the objective of a welfare government, that is welfare of the people. Now, how one government can achieve that welfare of the people? There are four functions or four means or four channels through which government can achieve these objectives. The first one is allocation function. First is allocation function. Yes, Amit, it's the fresh topic. Okay, so don't worry, we are starting from fresh. So first is allocation function. That's why I have written the heading fiscal policy. We are starting it fresh topic, don't worry. So allocation function. Second is distribution. Third function, to achieve that goal or to achieve the welfare of the people, economic growth. And the fourth function is stabilization. And the fourth function is stabilization. So these are the four functions of the government to achieve the objective, that is welfare of the people. Now, we'll discuss it one by one. Don't worry. Yes, Preeti, fiscal policy is the first class. Don't worry. It's a fresh topic. Allocation, distribution, economic growth, and stabilization. Now, if I say that to achieve these objectives or to function on these four parameters, the government needs fund. Fund means the money. Fund means the money or the capital which government needs to. Amit, yes, as per the schedule it was environment, but actually what we do generally before we start of every week, we generally give the that is class schedule and the topics. So before we start a fresh subject of every week, we give the schedule and topics. Okay. So this is the revised one, because we generally put this schedule as per the availability of the faculties and the priorities of the topics and subjects. Okay. So this week you will have the economy. We'll try to cover those topics first. Okay. And after end of this particular week, we'll definitely tell you what should be your next subject for the next week. So don't worry. Preeti, and I don't know the name which is written in the H. Please try to contact the number which is given in the at the end of your schedule, 9660090058. Just try to connect on that number and tell your problem, so they will solve it. Okay. So fund, government needs fund or requires fund. Then from where government will get that fund? The source is taxes. The source is taxes. I think you must have that idea. Taxes are different kinds. One is your direct taxes, another one is your indirect taxes. So taxes is a source from which government gets fund. Second, another one is your expenditure. What is that? Government collects revenue or fund from the taxes and spend those funds through expenditure to achieve the objective, that is welfare of the people, or to function on these different heads. on these different heads, expenditure is done from the money which is collected from the tax. I think let's end this debate whether this is first class or not. See, those people have joined from today's batch, 7th March, for them it is first class. Okay. So whatever syllabus we have already completed for the first batch, we will cover it through weekends, Saturday and Sunday. In the orientation session, we have already discussed it. Please refer to your orientation session or watch that so that you will have that clarity. Again, I am repeating, this is the first class for the new batch or the second batch, but this is not the first class for the first batch, which was already started from the 31st January. For them, whatever for the new batch, whatever we have completed for the old batch, will definitely cover through live classes only from Saturday and through this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, by putting extra classes. This is number one. Second, schedule is there which is given to you, but we keep changing those schedule as per our availability of faculties are there. Okay. So again, before 1 week you will get your schedule. So in this week we have this economy, and the next week on the Friday or Saturday you will be notified what should be your subject for the next week. Okay. So let's end this debate. If you have any individual query, please let me know through WhatsApp, or after the class we can discuss. But for the time being, please focus on the class. Again, I am telling, whatever topics we have covered for the first batch, that will be covered for the second batch in Saturday, Sunday time period, because you have joined it late, right? This is the March first week, and whatever topics we have completed for the first batch, that will be covered. Don't worry, that will be covered through live classes only. So don't worry, just end this debate here and let's focus on the class. So I have told you there are two wings for the fund. One is through get the funds through taxes by the government, and government spends that fund through expenditure method. So this is the source of revenue, you can say, and this is the the means through which government spends their money. So this function, like getting fund from one source and spending through other, this is known as your fiscal policy. I repeat, this mechanism, that is collecting revenue through these taxes and spending those public expenditure to achieve these goals or through these functions, that is known as your fiscal policy. So fiscal policy simply means the policy which is generally implemented by the government or the state. Clear? So two wings of this fiscal policy, one is your taxes and another one is your expenditure. Through tax it collects revenue, through expenditure it spends money into the economy. Now what are the implications are there, we'll discuss it. Okay. Now I think you must have heard about this Article 112. What depicts in the Constitution of India, that is Article 112? Can anybody answer? What has been written under this Article 112? What has been written under this Article 112? Can anybody answer? Anyone? It's annual financial statement, which is famously known as your budget. Which is famously known as your budget. Annual financial statement. What exactly comes under this annual financial statement or budget? This is a statement of estimated. This is a statement of estimated receipts. What is this receipts? That is whatever amount that government has collected, whatever source that government or whatever funds that government has collected through what? Through tax. So estimated receipts and expenditure of the government. So if someone will ask you what is the meaning of budget, so this term budget has not been mentioned in the constitution. It is there like annual financial statement. The exact terminology has been used in the constitution, and the meaning of this annual financial statement means the estimated receipts and expenditure. What is this receipts? The government is getting through, or you can say the income of the government, and simply the another one is the expenditure of the government. Clear? Now, so what is the financial year? Can anybody answer? What is the financial year? What is this? The tenure of financial year? What is the tenure of financial year? Anybody? The tenure of financial year is from 1st April to 31st March. First April to 31st March is the financial period, or the tenure of financial period of the government. Now, what exactly the implication of this budget? Before or a few minutes ago, we have discussed this fiscal policy, and it has two wings. One is tax, another one is your public expenditure. Why I am using this word public expenditure? Because this is done by the government. This expenditure is done by the government, right? Now, what is the significance of this budget to study in this fiscal policy? Because in India, or you can say as far as India is concerned, this fiscal policy is executed through this annual financial statement or through this budget only. There is no such separate policy for this fiscal policy, as such name on this fiscal policy. So it is the budget only which shows the fiscal policy of the government through this taxes and public expenditure. Clear? So from now onwards, you can use this word budget or fiscal policy. Coming to the next aspect, that is, what are the objectives of fiscal policy? What is the need of fiscal policy? What is the objectives of fiscal policy? What is the need of fiscal policy? Can anybody list out what are the objectives of fiscal policy? What are the objectives? First, welfare of the people. First, welfare of the people. What is this welfare of the people? To bring a, you can say, to improve the standard of living of the people, to raise the income of the people, overall welfare of the people, to raise the socio-economic life of the people. That is the objective of this fiscal policy, that is welfare of the people. Second, the public expenditure should be done in a manner so that it will not rise or it will not raise the price level. I repeat this statement. I repeat this statement. The public expenditure should not be in such a manner, or should not be in that much quantity which will rise the price level in the economy. Then what is the significance or importance of it. Why we are concerned about that public expenditure must be in a limit so that it should not raise the price level in the economy. When public expenditure happens in the economy, what is that time or what is that situation or scenario when this public expenditure increases in the economy? Or what is that scenario when public expenditure is done or increased by the government in the economy? Can anybody answer? What is that scenario? UPSC, I think if you go through the last 4 to 5 years of question paper, UPSC has asked when there is a recession in the economy, or I think this is last year only, 2021 question paper, UPSC has asked that if there is a recession in the economy, which of the following steps must be taken by the government? And in that particular options, there is one option is to increase the public expenditure in the economy. Now, how? I think you must have read about the business cycle. What is this business cycle? The normal functioning of the economy, like this is a phase of inflation, that is economy is going upward, and this is a phase of recession and depression, and then slump is achieved. Just try to recall in the last phase of the year 2020 when pandemic was there. In the month of October and November, government came with one scheme, that is your Atmanirbhar Bharat. What exactly the scheme was? The scheme was all about this self-reliance. Or what is that self-reliance? We can minimize our dependency on the foreign goods or foreign products. We must produce ourselves those goods for which we are dependent on other countries. So you can say the Swadeshi kind of thing. Okay. So under this Atmanirbhar or this Atmanirbhar Bharat, government tried to inject money into different sectors of the economy. Government injected money into the industry, government injected money into the service sector, government injected money to the agriculture or primary sector. Then what is the requirement? Why government came with this Atmanirbhar Bharat? Yes, Jyoti, what is the need of this expansionary fiscal policy? Need is, during this pandemic or this month of October and November, due to this pandemic only, all the different sectors of the economy was disrupted. Economy was at the negative phase. Like at this stage of the business cycle, economy was required to give a push so that it will recover. Then private players cannot interfere, or private players generally do not interfere in such conditions because there is no such profit motive. Simply what government does to recover this economy into this upward movement, this Atmanirbhar Bharat was launched by government, or to inject money into the different sectors of the economy. It was the requirement of that situation or that scenario. So sometimes we increase this public expenditure money into the economy, so that due to this increase in public expenditure, money supply increases in the economy. So that money supply, or there is more generation of demand in the economy. So it creates a situation when demand is greater than the supply. this is leading to inflationary situation. Clear? So that's why the public expenditure must be in a limit so that it will not lead to increase in price level or lead to inflation in the economy, because inflation affects badly to the people which are the constant source of income or the downtrodden people of the society. That's why we must check the rise in price level even if we are going to do this public expenditure to boost our economy. Now, coming to the third point. Third point is, what is the role of fiscal policy? Third point is the efficiency, or you can simply say efficient in raising of funds and spending for the welfare of the people. Raising of funds through taxes and spending through public expenditure, that must be in an efficient manner, so that there must be a purposeful use. Another point which supplements this particular point, that public expenditure must be in a manner we can avoid this wasteful expenditure. Wasteful expenditure means there must not be an unnecessary expenditure in the economy, so that some sectors are getting, better off and some sectors are not getting the benefit. That must not be there, or that should not be the what you can say, the nature of the public expenditure. So whatever amount we are spending, that must be beneficial to the people, or that must be beneficial to the needy. Let's take for example, like Narega is a scheme which came to increase the employment opportunity in the economy, or employment opportunity for the unemployed people. Again, although it is a good welfare scheme, but still we get some news regarding this corruption charges or this manipulation of those list of beneficiaries. So those who are needy, they are not getting the job, but those who are not needy, they are getting the benefit. You can simply say the error of exclusion and error of inclusion. So such news are also there for this under this Narega scheme, but still it is beneficial for the economy because it creates opportunity. Recently, if you see that there was a survey regarding this, how Narega has employed or Narega has generated employment through this pandemic, when this those migrant people, they were coming back to their home state. So this is to avoid wasteful expenditure. You must spend money in a calculative manner or a purposeful manner. Now, the next objective of the fiscal policy, the taxes we generally put or impose on the common man, that must not be a burden. It must not be a burden one, or the common man should not feel the pain of paying tax. So the tax amount must be carefully set or imposed by the government. I am giving you one example for this the amount of, or what should be the amount of taxation. Before 1990s, or simply you can say the milestone 1991 reform. Before that, in India, the tax rate was very high. Some people, they were able to give, they were giving or paying the tax, but some people, those who are capable to pay, but still they are avoiding it. That's why the amount of revenue collection was decreased. So in the 1990s phase, or after this 1991, we tried to reform the tax collection. We reduced the tax rate so that the tax revenue collection or the base of tax rate can increase. Why? Because common man should not feel the pain of paying the tax. So you have to impose a certain amount which a common man will be comfortable to pay it to the government. If you put unnecessary burden on the common man, then this tax avoidance will be started in our economy. So that's why the fiscal policy, or the objective of the fiscal policy, the taxes should not create a burden on the common man. Now, the last objective is to reduce the inequality in our economy. To reduce the inequality, or simply you can say to reduce the income inequalities. I think you must have that idea that one organization is there, like a kind of NGO known as Oxfam. This organization every year comes with a report on this inequality. So under this report, it also publishes a report for this inequality in India. Just Google it out or find it out what is the present inequality situation in our country. A large proportion of the resources are with a 1% of the people of your country. You can simply say more than 70% of the resources are handled or managed by only 1% people in our economy. And the rest 90%, they are dependent on those 30% of the resources. This is the scenario of inequality in our country. So what is the role of the fiscal policy then? To reduce the inequality in the economy. Then what is the purpose to reduce the inequality? Because this prevailing of inequality of income or inequality in the society leads to breakdown of social harmony in the society. That's why we need to bring down this inequality among the people, and that is possible only through this public expenditure, or you can say this fiscal policy. Clear? So let's see what are the objectives of fiscal policy. The first one is welfare of the people. Second, we should not increase the public expenditure in such quantity so that it will lead to increase the price level. So public expenditure should have a limit to check the increase in price level or increase the inflation. Third, efficient in raising of funds and spending of those resources. Fourth, avoid wasteful expenditure. You must spend money in a purposeful manner. Okay. Fifth, taxes must not be a burden on the common man. Sixth, inequality must be decreased in our society. So these are some of the objectives of the fiscal policy. Now we're moving to the first function of the government, allocation. Allocation function. Now what is this allocation function? Can anybody answer it? What is this allocation function? Anyone? Dibyani, Jyoti, Amit, anybody can answer it? What is this allocation function? Allocation function is something that government allocate resources for the welfare of the people. Now, how government allocates resources for the welfare of the people? I'm giving you one example. Suppose a park. A park which is known as a public good. Defense system. Again, it is known as public good. These are required. This park, which is a public good, defense is a public good. Generally, private parties do not provide these public goods. So here government comes into the picture, so that government provides this public good for the welfare of the people. What is the requirement of defense? Requirement of defense is to protect your state, to protect your people. What is the requirement of park? Let's say for recreational purpose. So if a park is built by the private party, then it is not accessible for everyone. So government comes into the picture to provide these facilities. Let's say national highway, let's say electricity system, okay, let's say roads. So these public goods which are not capable for those people, or which those downtrodden people of the society, they cannot afford because of their lower income category. These goods are provided by the government through this allocation function. What is the difference between public good and private good? We will discuss after a few minutes. So first try to understand what is the function or allocation function of the government. Government provides those public goods to the people, those who cannot afford those products from the private sector. Clear? So how this is happened? Again, I have already told you, tax and public expenditure. What is the role of tax? To collect the revenue and to spend money to build these. Clear? So this is one such function, allocation function. Now coming to the next function, that is distribution. Again, allocation function is bit similar to the distribution function. What is the distribution? Those who are able to pay the tax, government will collect tax from them, and those who are not able to afford those goods and services available in the economy, government will provide them. I think you must have seen those kirana stores, private kirana stores, where generally people used to purchase their daily necessities. Again, you must have seen those ration shops in your locality. Every morning you will find there is a long queue in front of that ration shop. Why? Because government is providing those daily necessities like wheat, rice, oil at a very subsidized rate, because these people cannot afford those products or daily necessities from a private kirana shop from where you generally purchase. That is the requirement of this distribution. Again, what is the role of this distribution? In the objectives of fiscal policy, we have already discussed one point, or one objective of the fiscal policy is to reduce the inequality. How that can be achieved? It can be achieved from this allocation and distribution only. Then what is this distribution? Distribution simply means those people, they have ability to pay. They can pay taxes to the government, and government will use those taxes for the welfare of the people, those who cannot pay or those who cannot afford these basic necessities. Clear? So the tax and public expenditure are two wings which are used for this distribution. Clear? Now, few minutes ago, I have told you that there are two types of goods available in the economy. One is your public good, another one is your private goods. Can you please tell me the difference between the two? What is the difference between the public goods and private goods? What are the difference? Anybody? Public goods are produced by government majorly and also with the help of private party, private sector. But those private goods are produced purely by the private party. Clear? This is the one such difference between the two. One is by the government or with the help of private sector. Second is private party. Now, you can ask, sir, how, please give one example how government provides this public goods through the help of private party. Simply you can say that suppose government ask, let's say this L&T company, which is the infrastructure based company, that you please build that road, and for the next 10 years you just use that road for this toll collection and all. After this 10 years you just hand over to the government. Then it is purely a public good and everybody can access that road. Okay, so that is the point where with the help of a private party, government build the public good. This is the first point or the first difference. Second difference is, what should be the second difference? Anybody? Public goods are not rivalrous. Rivalrous. What is this rivalrous? That means if you use a product, then the other individual cannot or will not be able to use that. In case of public goods, if you use, let's say, this park, then other peoples are also other people will also use that. But in case of private, let's say, vehicle, if you use a vehicle, then the other people, or the private vehicle, the other people cannot use that. So it's a rivalrous. Clear? The second difference is not rivalrous, and this is the rivalrous, because when you use it, that means other cannot use. In case of this or public good, if you use, then others also can use that. Third is non-excludable, and here excludable. Again the same thing. If you use a public good, then it is not excluding others, but in case of this, it is excluding. Suppose you purchase a movie ticket and you watch it. So on that movie ticket, others cannot watch that movie. This is solely belongs to you. So this is your excludability and rivalrous, and here this non-excludability and non-rivalrous. One concept, free rider problem, which is associated with this. Can anybody answer it? What is this free rider problem? Anyone? What is this free rider problem? Free rider problem means, suppose I am giving one example, through that you can understand it. Suppose let's say group of people want to install a street light on your locality. One such family in your locality, they just you decided by collecting money in yourself, you want to install that street light. But one family, they simply denied to pay any rupee or to contribute anything to install this street light. But after this installation of street light, that family which denied to pay any amount, they can also get the benefit out of it. So through that, it's a free rider problem, or that family is a free rider. That means some users, they do not pay for it, right? Simply it's impossible or some difficult to collect amount or that fee amount from that family which actually are using that benefit. Clear? That is a free rider problem associated with this public good only. So it could be a question in your prelims that free rider problem which is seen in news related to what? A, B, C, D, you have to choose the right answer. Now, the third category, two category we have discussed, public goods and private goods. Third category is merit goods. What is this? What is this merit goods? What is this merit goods? Anyone? I think if any of you have already, any of you have done your schooling in a government school or a government college, let's say in your graduation and other, certificate degrees or courses. If you have seen, the government fee is like, let's say, they charge a tuition fee for a particular course or for a particular semester under a particular course. And this is a very minimum amount. It's not like a private college. They demand a huge amount. It's a very minimum amount. I have remembered, like in my, I think 11th or 12th, I have done this in a government college. I have paid only 48 rupees for one semester. So it's a kind of very tuition fee, and it's at a very subsidized rate. So what is exactly this tuition fee or subsidized rate is all about? Government wants to promote this education, but at a very subsidized rate. So this particular commodity which is charged by the government, although it is charged by the government, but a very lower amount or a very subsidized rate, those goods are known as merit goods. What is the purpose of it? Purpose is, although a nominal amount is paid by the beneficiary or by the consumer, but it is to, government wants to encourage their what? Consumption among the consumers. So education is one such example of merit goods. Although you are paying a small amount like a private good, but it is a very minimum amount or a very minimal amount or a very, very subsidized rate. That is known as your merit goods. So along with this public, private, and the third category is merit goods. Now, if you have any doubt, any query, please let me know. Okay. If you have any query, any doubt till now, please let me know, or we'll move forward. With you, I have already discussed this allocation function and distribution function, and then I discussed this public good and private good. Now, we'll tell you how this distribution function is done by the government. What is the strategy or what is the method through which this distribution function is governed or is executed? I have told you the source of revenue is tax. So let's see what are the different categories, or you can say the nature of tax generally used by different governments. First such category is progressive tax. First such category is progressive tax. What is this progressive tax? Or simply you can say, what is this progressive income tax? Police is a public good. Police is not excludable because police is there to protect everyone in this society. So it's a public good, like your defense system. Yes, these are I don't know the name, but the question is, so institutions which are big names also have subsidized fees or fees. Why so? Yes, because these institutions are governed by the government, and government wants to increase the consumption of this higher education so that more and more people can enroll in the higher education system. That's why, although these are big names, but the fees are very nominal amount or subsidized in nature. Okay. So coming to this part, what is this progressive income tax? Anybody? Progressive income tax means higher the income, higher is the tax rate. Progressive income tax means higher is the income, higher is the tax rate. Simply, you can draw like this. So here, if you denote the income, here is the tax rate. So higher is the income, higher will be the tax rate. Simply, this progressive income tax is used in our country. How? There are different tax rate for different income group, or there are different tax slabs. What is that? For different income group, there is a different tax rate. Those who are, let's say, those who are earning 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs per annum, they will have a separate tax slab. Those who are earning 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs per annum, they will have a separate tax slab. So higher the income, higher is the tax rate. This is known as your progressive income tax or progressive tax that comes under this distribution, and India follows this progressive income tax policy. Another category of this tax rate, that is your proportional tax. Proportional tax. What is this proportional tax? Anyone can answer? What is this proportional tax? If the graph for this progressive income tax is like this, with the increase in income, the tax rate is also increasing. But for the proportional tax, the curve or the graph is like this. With the increase in income, this would be your tax rate. What is this proportional tax. Proportional tax means simply you can say it is a flat tax. The same tax rate or the same rate of tax is imposed irrespective of income group. I repeat, the same rate of tax is imposed irrespective of income group. Here, in case of 5 to 10 lakhs per annum, there is a different category or different tax slab. 10 to 20, there is a different tax slab, and 20 to 30, there is a different tax slab. But in case of this proportional tax, it is fixed one irrespective of income group. Clear? So then if you compare these two, then which is a better one? Better one is your progressive tax, because the higher is the ability to pay to the government, or higher is the ability to pay of these tax, then they can give it to the government. But in case of this, it is, although it is putting an equal label of tax, but the pain of tax is different. That means the person who is earning 10,000, let's say, per month, giving the same percentage of tax, and the person who is giving earning 50,000 per month, that person is paying the same rate of tax. Although the tax rate is same, but the pain is different. More painful for the person who is earning 10,000 and paying the same percentage of the tax. Clear? So we discussed progressive tax, we discussed the proportional. Now we are moving to the third category, regressive tax. What is this regressive tax? Anyone? What is this regressive tax? A tax which applied uniformly. A tax which applied uniformly, or you can put the example, or you can give example in indirect tax. Indirect tax. Now you may ask, sir, how this indirect tax is known as this regressive tax? Let's say a 50 rupees worth of toothpaste purchased by, let's say, Ambani and purchased by a rickshaw puller, and within this MRP of 50 rupees, let's say 5 rupees is the tax rate. Now, just imagine this 5 rupees tax which is included in this 50 rupees, it's not a big deal for Ambani, but it is a big deal, or it matters for this rickshaw puller. So the rise in price label of different goods and services, I mean, it's the price is paid by a person who is earning 1 lakh per month, or the price which is paid by a person who is paying who is earning 10,000 per month, the pain is different for different persons, although they are paying the same price for that product. So this indirect tax, or simply you can say the amount of goods and services tax which are imposed on different products, that are quite regressive in nature. It is not that if you are a millionaire, you are paying a different price for the same toothpaste. If you are a rickshaw puller, you are paying a different price for the same toothpaste. So this is quite regressive in nature. So increase in price rise in the economy is regressive in nature, because it affects, although it is paid by every sections of the people at the same price, but it affects differently. Rickshaw puller is feeling the more pain, and for Ambani it is not exactly any painful. Okay, so this is the regressive tax. I am moving to the third objective of the fiscal policy, or the third functions of the government, that is your economic growth. Allocation function we have discussed, distribution we have discussed, and the third category is in economic growth. Now, how economic growth is achieved and what is the requirement of economic growth? The requirement of economic growth is when you will increase the size of the pie, when you will increase the size, or if the size of the pie can be increased of an economy, then you can distribute that increased share among the people. So for a better distribution of resources among people, you need a good economic growth. Growth is a concept about the quantity. Like India is growing at 8% and 10%, 12%. So with the increase in growth rate, then your size of the economy will increase so that you can share those increased size among those beneficiaries or those people who are needy to get that. Priti is asking, sir, regressive and proportional looks like the same. How to differentiate? Proportional tax system, which is more or less related to the direct tax or that income tax category, and this regressive one, which we generally use for the indirect tax, that is your simply goods and services tax or GST kind of thing. Okay. Proportional tax structure we generally do not use in our country. For income tax, we use the progressive one, and the other tax system, which is a regressive one, we generally see in this rise in price level of the economy or rise in price level of goods and services. Okay. More prone to evade, that is your income tax. Proportional tax we do not use in our income tax category. We use progressive tax in the income tax category. Okay. So third objective is economic growth. I have told you, you need to have a good economic growth so that you can redistribute the sources among the people. So how you can achieve that economic growth? Through capital formation. What is this capital formation? Again, this capital formation is known as the investment in the economy. You need to increase the investment in the economy. And I think you must have that idea. One is your public investment. Another one is your private investment. Public investment, which is not guided by the profit motive, but here the private investment is guided by the profit motive. So for the welfare purpose, these private investors, they do not come forward to invest in those sectors. Why? These private sectors will build a road until unless they get some profit out of it. Why these private investors will build a school? Why this private, which can be accessible by all sections of the society? That work is done by this public investment, which is also known as the investment under this capital formation. So you need to invest in the economy to achieve the economic growth, and that is through this capital formation. And from where you will get that investment? Simply the public expenditure. So with the increase in the size of the economy, government will raise or generate more revenue, and government will able to inject more money into the economy, or more capital formation into the economy, so that it will increase the welfare of the people. So this is the requirement of economic growth. Example, Atmanirbhar Bharat. When economy was in a bad shape, when economy was in downward moving direction, then government injected money under this Atmanirbhar Bharat category to recover the economy, so that economic growth can be increased, then more revenue generation will be there in the economy, so that government can use those sources of revenue for this public expenditure. Clear? The fourth function is stabilization. What is the stabilization function? Anybody? Stabilization function means absence of large scale fluctuations in the price level. Simply it means absence of large scale fluctuations in the price level. Now, how government executes, or how government manage this, or how government control this unnecessary fluctuations in the price level? Anybody can answer it? How government control this unnecessary fluctuations in the price level? There are two situations in the economy. One is your inflationary situation, where price level increases. Another one is your deflation or recessionary situation, when price level goes down. When this inflationary situation or price level increases, government will reduce the public expenditure, so that money supply in the economy will come down, increase in price level can be checked. Now, in this scenario, public expenditure will increase, so that the unnecessary reduction or unnecessary downward movement of the price level can be checked, so that the price level will start increasing or will come to a stable position. So, instrument is public expenditure. Through that, it can be increased or decreased. Another instrument I have told you, the tax. So, at the inflationary situation, the tax rate can be increased. So, when the tax rate can be increased, then the disposable income with the people will come down. Again, at the inflationary situation, tax rate will increase, so disposable income of the people will come down. Then what is that disposable income? Simply, disposable income means income with a person after paying the tax to the government. I repeat, income of a person after paying tax to the government. So, with the increase in tax rate, the disposable income will come down, or the remaining income with that person will come down. So, that person will reduce the expenditure or money spent in the economy. Through that, inflationary situation can be controlled. Other one is when you will, or the government will reduce the tax, so that disposable income will increase, then there will be more demand in the economy, then economy will move to upward direction. So, two cases through which stabilization can be done in the economy. One is inflationary situation, another one is deflationary. At the time of inflation, price level increases. So what government will do? Government will increase the tax or reduce the public expenditure in the economy. At the time of deflation, government will increase the public expenditure or reduce the tax rate in the economy. This particular explanation has already been asked by UPSC. What should be the role of government at the time of inflationary situation, at the time of deflationary situation? So you need to understand it, because this is a conceptual topic, or this question has already been asked by UPSC multiple times in last 20 years. Understood? Till now, if you have any doubt, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll move forward. Any doubt do you have? Or anything to explain, or anything to repeat? Any query, just let me know. Only few people are interacting or giving answers. What about others? Okay. I've already told you, in the budget, there are two categories or two separate entities under a budget. Okay. Preeti, should I explain this free rider problem again or what? Just tell me. Bank rate. Okay, Nosin has asked, sir, please tell what would be effect on bank rate in inflation and deflation. Inflation simply means what? Increase in price level. Clear? What is bank rate? Bank rate is the rate at which commercial banks borrow money from the central bank. Clear? So at the time of inflation, if RBI wants, then RBI will increase the bank rate, so that the cost of borrowing will increase in the economy. So when the cost of borrowing will increase, or the cost of borrowing of commercial bank will increase, definitely the public, for the public also, commercial bank will increase the interest rate against the loan. So lesser money supply will be there in the economy, so that inflation can be checked. Reverse is, at the time of depression or deflationary situation, government wants to revive the economy, so RBI will help government to reduce the bank rate. That means cost of borrowing of the commercial bank decreases. So when the cost of borrowing of commercial bank decreases, automatically those commercial banks provide loans to the public. That rate of interest or cost of borrowing will also decrease. That means more money supply will be there in the economy, so that economy can be revived. This is the explanation or relationship between inflation, deflation and bank rate. Okay. After COVID, price increase in spite of deflation in the economy. See, the point is, why price increased although there was deflation in the economy? Deflation in the sense, you can say there was negative, growth rate was at a downward movement, and economy achieved a negative growth rate as well, and mass unemployment was there. Industry were not functioning in a normal manner. So why this price increased during that period? This price increased due to the shortage in supply. Shortage in supply means since industries were not functioning in a full manner. You must have heard that people, those who were working in different states, the industries were shut down due to this lockdown and all, and they came back to their home state. Without the labor, how these industries can run or function? That's why, due to the shortage of this supply of different goods and services, the price of different goods increased. This is the reason behind, although economy was in a downward movement, then also price was increased, or the price of goods and services were increased due to this lesser supply of different goods. Rivalrous and non-rivalrous means the terminology comes from this rival. Suppose I am using this marker, let's say, and when I am using this marker, you or any other person cannot use it. So it creates a rivalry kind of situation. Why rivalry? Because it excludes the other people. Suppose I am using my bike. So when I am using my bike, no other person can use that. So it's a scenario of rivalrous or excludable. But a public transport, let's say metro in Delhi, it can be used anyone. It's open for everyone. Those who can access, they can use it. So it's non-rivalrous in nature, or it is non-excludable. Clear? Free rider problem, Preeti has doubt. Free rider problem means, simply I have given that example. In your locality, you people want to install a street light, and you decided, let's do not depend on the local municipal authority. Let's collect money or gather money among us and then install that street light. So let's say 10 families are there from which you want to collect the money. But to one of such family denied to pay any amount for this installation of street light. But when you install that street light on the road, definitely that family is also getting benefit out of it. Right? You cannot exclude that family since that family has not paid for it, because it's a public good kind of thing. You put that street light on the road itself. You are not using for your home purpose. Right? So when you install that street light on the road, the family which is denied to pay any amount for that installation, they also get the benefit. That is the free rider problem. It's a problem because that family do not pay or do not contribute for the installation. And free rider means simply that family is riding freely, means getting the benefit freely. That is the free rider problem. And it's a problem which arises in this public good only. In case of private good, it's not possible, because your product, you are paying for it and you are using it. Simply let's say your vehicle, you purchase a movie ticket for your entertainment. So it's not related to any other people. No one can access that along with you. It's your product, so it's a private one. But in case of public one, when there is some collection of fee for this installation of street light, just I gave you that example, such problem arises in the economy. That is your free rider problem. Okay. Lower tax rate. Sir, please explain again how lower tax rate works in deflationary situation. Deflationary situation means simply price is going down. Economy at this phase. So government wants to revive in the economy. How you can revive the economy? Simply you can revive to create more demand in the economy. how you can increase the demand in the economy to increase the income, you can say. Increase the income. That means what? Those who are paying tax to the government, those who are earning or those who are coming under the income tax bracket, you simply reduce the tax rate. Let's take for example 50,000 a person is earning per month and 10% was the tax rate. Let's say 5,000 that person is paying to the government under the 10% tax rate. So deflationary situation was there, government reduced the tax rate. Then let's say government reduced to 5%. Now what will be the amount this person will pay to the government? It's only 2,500. So earlier, after paying this 10% of tax, this person had this 45,000. Now 47,500, I guess, if I am not wrong, 47,500. Now you have 2,500 rupees extra. What is the meaning of it? It means you will definitely increase your consumption in the economy. That means you will increase your demand. You will spend more on goods and services. Clear? So economy can revive in this manner. When demand will increase in the economy, industries will produce more goods and services to meet those extra demand. So when this industry will start producing, then economy will revive in this upward manner. So this is the thing, in a deflationary situation or when economy was moving in a downward direction, your government can reduce the tax rate. Clear? Now, budget, I have told you, it's a balance sheet kind of thing. I think you must have read in different banks, there is a balance sheet. What is that? Simply debit and credit side. In a budget also, I have already told you estimated receipts and expenditure. What is receipts? That means how much government is receiving. That means revenue or earning or income of the government. What is expenditure? That means how much government is spending into the economy. Clear? Now, let's discuss first this receipt side. First, receipt side. Again, this receipt has been divided into, one is your revenue receipt, another one is your capital receipt. Right? Now please tell me, what comes under this revenue receipt? Or how government earn under this revenue receipt? Anybody? Anyone? Receipt means simply, I have already told you, income. Clear? Income. Then under revenue receipt, what are the different sources of revenue receipt? Anybody? Simply tax and non-tax. Under revenue receipt, tax and non-tax. What is this tax? the primary receipt of the government is this tax revenue, and it's a primary receipt of primary receipt, or tax revenue is, you can say, the primary source. 84% of the revenue comes under this tax revenue for the government. So whatever amount, if government is receiving 100 rupees, out of that 100 rupees, 84 rupees government is getting through this tax system. Now, again, this tax revenue is divided into direct tax and indirect tax. Now, please tell me, what is this direct tax? Please tell me, what is this direct tax? Any example of direct tax? Any example of direct tax? Simply personal income tax. If you are not getting anything, please let me know. Any confusion, any query, just mention in the WhatsApp group. Personal income tax is one example of direct tax. Second, corporate tax. In the budget, we are discussing the receipt side, receipt, revenue receipt and capital receipt. Again, revenue receipt is divided into tax and non-tax. Again, this tax revenue is divided into direct and indirect. Again, this direct tax is personal income tax and corporate tax. Now tell me, what is this direct tax? Direct tax simply means the taxpayer is directly paying the tax to the government. I repeat, the taxpayer directly paying tax to the government. There is no such middleman between the payer and the government. For example, income tax. The tax is imposed, or the income tax is imposed on the consumer or the taxpayer, and he or she, himself or herself pays tax to the government. There is no possibility of shifting. There is no possibility of shifting the tax burden in case of this personal income tax. Then what is this shifting? Suppose government imposes tax on you and you simply shifted to your father. This is not possible under this personal income tax. If government imposes tax on you, then you have to pay the tax to the government. So that is your personal income tax. There is no shifting of tax. So who is the taxpayer, that you can easily know out of it. Okay. So already I have told you, this personal tax means simply tax are imposed, or different tax slabs are imposed under different income bracket people. Okay, like 5 to 10 lakhs per annum, one rate is given, or one rate of tax is imposed. Then from 10 to 20 there is a separate or simply the higher tax rate, and then 20 to 30 again there is a different slab which is generally higher than these two earlier tax slabs. So it's a personal income tax. Now, corporate tax means the tax is paid by those corporate houses, those companies, Ambani's, Mittal, Jindal, Adani's, they are paying those taxes to the government, that is coming under this corporate tax. Clear? So this is one such revenue generation source of the government. One is personal income tax, another one is your corporate tax. There are other direct taxes as well, other types of direct taxes you can say. One is your, anybody apart from these two, any other example apart from these two? Wealth tax, gift tax. So these are, I mean, simply you can say wealth tax, gift tax under this direct tax category. So I think, I hope you have understood this shifting wala concept. The tax burden cannot be shifted from one to another. That means if let's say 30% of tax is imposed on the Adani, then Adani cannot shift this tax to other person or other player. Okay, Adani himself will pay the tax. Okay, so these are wealth tax, gift tax, or other categories of your direct tax. Now, the another type of tax is indirect tax. So any example under this indirect tax? Any example under this indirect tax? Yes, Chayan has given excise tax. Chayan, this comes under this indirect tax only. This does not come under the direct tax. Excise tax comes under this indirect tax only. Just remember. Custom duties, yes. Now my question to you, why these are known as your indirect tax? Yes, Amit, GST is one such. But because this excise tax and custom duties, we have already merged into this GST tax, this one and only tax in our country. So why this is known as your indirect tax? Why this is known as your indirect tax? Yes, VAT वगैरह हम लोगों ने उसको हटा दिया. Now we have this GST only, right? So why this is known as your indirect tax? In case of direct tax, I have already told you, the burden of tax cannot be shifted. But here under indirect tax, the burden of tax can be shifted. Suppose you are purchasing, let's say, a product. Under that price of that product, you are paying some amount of tax to the government. But you are not directly paying that tax. When you purchase that product from this retailer, suppose you are the consumer, you paid that amount of tax which is a part of the MRP, it goes to the retailer, then again a retailer is giving to the wholesaler, again wholesaler is giving to the manufacturer or the producer, and this person is giving tax to the government. Are you getting my point? So why this is indirect tax? Because the consumer is paying that amount but not directly to the government, simply through this channel, and finally this producer is giving tax to the government. Simply you can say, suppose this manufacturer, let's say manufactures a product A and imposes some amount of tax. So this manufacturer, what this manufacturer will do, he will add the tax price with this cost of that product and simply will take that price from the wholesaler. Then again wholesaler will shift that burden to retailer, and finally it will be shifted to the consumer. Consumer is the final payer of that tax. Are you getting my point? So any increase in the indirect tax simply imposes on the consumer but indirectly. So this is known as your indirect tax. Government is not taking tax from you directly but in an indirect way. So excise tax, custom duties, these are some of the indirect tax. My question to you, what is this excise tax? Anybody? What is this excise tax? Jyoti is asking, sir, why do we use duty but not tax? See, import duty or custom duty, it's simply tax only. Only the nomenclature is different. Okay, wind is disturbing the audio. Okay, I hope it is fine. Akash, Jyoti, just let me know, is it fine or not? It's a closed studio actually. So there is no wind, only wind of AC is coming, I guess. So that is creating some disturbance. Yeah, thank you. So I was saying this excise, what is this excise tax? Anyone? Excise tax simply means that is levied or imposed on goods produced in the economy, on those manufacturing units, those who produced goods. Yes, excise is produced, tax is imposed on the produced goods or manufacturing units. Now, second is custom duties. What is this custom duty? Simply you can say tax imposed on import and export. Tax imposed on export and import, these are custom duties. Okay. In 2021, direct tax has a share of 4.7% of GDP. Direct tax has a share of 4.7% of GDP and indirect tax has a share of 5.4% of GDP. Okay. So if you cannot remember the exact data, and it's not required as well, but try to just have an idea, like in case of indirect tax, the share in terms of GDP is higher than the direct one, because in case of direct tax it is 4.7% of the GDP and indirect tax is 5.4% of the GDP. That means the share in case of GDP. Okay. Now, apart from that, I think you must have heard surcharge. You must have heard this surcharge. What is this surcharge? Anyone? What is this surcharge? It's a simple question. Surcharge means an additional amount of revenue that is imposed above the tax. Above the tax rate. Or simply you can say the additional percentage above the tax rate, that is your surcharge. Suppose surcharge on a tax rate is 5%, surcharge on a tax is 5% and the tax payable is rupees 100, then the surcharge or the total amount is 105. Okay, this is simply an additional revenue source above the tax rate. Now, like this surcharge I told you, additional source of revenue which is imposed after the tax rate. Similarly, there is another source of revenue, I think you must have heard, that is cess. Then what is this cess? What is this cess? Anyone? Cess is similar to this extra amount or additional amount of source of revenue above the rate of tax. But the cess is imposed for a specific purpose. For a specific purpose like Swachh Bharat cess, education cess. Okay, so this is levied for the specific purpose. The amount collected under this cess will go to for that purpose only. You cannot spend it for other purposes. Okay, so Swachh Bharat cess, your education cess. So these cess are again above the tax rate which is collected for specific use. So this is the difference between the surcharge and cess. Both are same, but surcharge you can use for some other purposes, but in case of cess you have to use for a specific purpose only. So this is all about the tax revenue or the tax side. We are moving to the next non-tax revenue. Non-tax revenue. What are the components or what are the different sources from which government generates revenue, but they are not from tax sources? I repeat, non-tax revenue means the sources governments earn revenue, but not through the tax, but some other sources. Then what are those non-tax revenue sources? Anyone? Non-tax revenue sources. The first is interest receipts. Interest receipts. What is that interest receipts? Simply interest receipts against loans provided by the government. Suppose government has given some loan to some agency, let's say, or to some other countries, let's say. Through that also government is earning some interest. As you know, against the loan interest rate is charged. So that interest receipt is one such source which comes under the non-tax revenue. This is one. Second category, dividends and profits. Dividends and profits made by the government or from the investment made by the government. What is dividend and profits? From the investment. Suppose dividend means simply the profit amount earned from the bonds, or simply you can say the amount of profit you earn from the investment in bonds, that is known as your dividends. So if government invests some money in the bond market, let's say, from there also government earns some profit or sources of revenue. This is one source. Third, let's say fee. Few minutes ago, while discussing the merit goods, I have told you, or I have given you one example, tuition fee. Tuition fee. What is that? It's a kind of source of revenue for the government. Although it is very small in amount on individual level, but if you see the aggregate of the economy, then you will see the amount of fee which is collected by the government, which is large in number, which is a kind of source of revenue for the government. Example of dividend and profit. Okay, dividend and profit and dividend means simply whatever amount that government has invested in the economy. For example, suppose let's say this public sector companies or the government companies, they have invested in a project, let's say, or they have invested, let's say, 10,000 crore in a particular project, and from that project government is also getting some amount of profit out of that, or that company is getting some profit, that is added in this category. In case of this dividend, you can assume, let's say, government has or you can say simply, suppose a public sector company has purchased bonds issued by, let's say, a particular company, okay, and out of that investment a regular profit is coming to that particular public sector company. So that is a source of dividend for the government. Clear? So this is another source for the government. Now, fee I have already told you. The fourth one is grants, aid. What is this grants and aid? Grants and aid means simply the money which given by different countries to your government. Let's say, to manage the flood scenario, flood situation in your country, US government is giving India, let's say, 50,000 crore of grant. That means against these grants or aid, generally interest rate are not provided, or interest rate are not given to the source government, or in this example, India government will not pay any kind of interest to the US. So it's a kind of aid or grant. So that is also another source of revenue channel or means of revenue for the government. Okay. Similarly, I mean, the government of India also give some grants to other states. Let's say Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, those small states at its neighborhood. India government will also give some grants. But government of India is not expecting any kind of rate of interest against that grant. If you start collecting rate of interest, then it will not be considered as a grant, but it will be considered as borrowing. or this lending or loan, you can say. Clear? So there are four major sources of revenue under this non-tax category. One is your interest receipts against loans. Second, dividend and profit. Third, fee. Fourth is grant. Yes, Jyoti, when we get grants from foreign countries, it increases our foreign exchange reserves. It's true. Now, we are moving to capital receipt. Any doubt till now? Please let me know. Any doubt you have? We discussed the revenue side. Now we are moving to the capital side. Any doubt till now? Or we will move forward. If of any doubt, please let me know. Whatever we are discussing, are you people getting it or not? It's understandable. We are going fast or slow, that also please tell me. Otherwise, some people are there which those who cannot catch the speed of the class. You can ask me or you can tell me whether you are able to catch up with the class or not, or this the present speed is okay with you. Please tell me. Okay, whatever we are discussing, if you are getting it, then it's fine. If of any doubt, please tell me. Tell me, I will definitely answer you back. Grants and aids are almost same thing. I mean, the fund which is given to a particular government for the use of something or at the time of crisis. Let's say, you can say that suppose government of India is suffering from this malnutrition or food insecurity. So foreign countries, let's say Japan, is giving a grant of or aid of let's say 50,000 crore to fight this malnutrition. That is a kind of grant and aid, you can say. Yes, we generally discussing here real life example only. Just I took this, I mean, whatever we are discussing till now, like your Atmanirbhar Bharat or anything, we are discussing as far our real life is concerned. So we are giving real life examples. If you have any example, you can share in the group, so other people can also will get to know about it. Okay. So capital receipt, the another part of your receipt side, revenue receipt we have already discussed, capital receipt. So when you discuss or when you see this capital receipt, two keywords comes to our mind. One is it creates liability. Two keywords comes to our mind. One, second, or reduce the financial asset. So when I say capital receipt, two keywords come to our mind. One is your creates liability. Another one is your reduce financial asset. Now, what is the meaning of this creates liability? What is the meaning of it? Creates liability means you are borrowing some amount from your friend, let's say. You are borrowing some amount from your friend, that means you are liable to pay that amount or repay back that amount to your friend. So that is your liability. So when we say capital received, that means the amount of money government is receiving from loan. The amount of money government is receiving from loan. That means it creates liability on the government side. Just for 2 minutes, there is some power disruption. Let's this so liability we are discussing, that is yes, liability simply means the loan. That means government has taken some loan for its developmental work. That means government is liable to repay it back. This is one key term. The second keyword is reduce financial assets. Can anybody give example? Reduce financial assets. Anyone? I think you must have heard this term, disinvestment. Some use disinvestment, some use divestment. So the same thing, disinvestment. Have you heard about it? Privatization is not the exact word. Privatization is something different from disinvestment. Disinvestment means simply, let's say, I am giving you one example. One is IDBI Bank. Okay, let's say another one is, let's say, okay, let's take this example. IDBI Bank was purely or 100% it was owned by the government. So it was purely a government owned bank. First, in the first phase, what government does, sold 40% of the share, sold 40% of the share to a private party. 40% of the share to a private party. Just try to understand this. 40% share sold to a private party means, that means government is disinvesting. Simply, this term is opposite of investing. Don't use these words like privatization, selling company to private party so lightly. Just try to understand the difference, then use it with all cautious, because if you use these words loosely, then the examiner will find that you have not understood it, these concepts. Okay, just see here. I told you IDBI Bank 100% owned by the government, 40% share out of this 100% sold to a private party. That means private parties has the ownership of 40% under this IDBI. That means this IDBI has been disinvested by the government. Simply opposite of investment. What is the meaning of that? With the selling of this 40% of this share of IDBI bank, government generates what? Revenue. Okay? Now, after selling this 40% to the private party, still government has the ownership of what? 60%. Let's say, again, government sold another 9% to the private party. Now, government has owned 51% share. Can we say that IDBI bank has been privatized? The answer is no. The IDBI bank is still a government owned bank till government has a majority of ownership. Although 49% has gone to the private party, that's fine. But still 51% share has been owned by the government. Now this IDBI bank is a government owned bank till the time it does not reduce its share below this 51%. If it will reduce its share to 49%, then IDBI will become a private owned bank, because majority of the ownership has gone to the private sector. Although you have 49%, but 51% owned by the private party. So now you can say this is a method of what? Privatization. Clear? So now government is attempting to privatize the IDBI bank. Until unless government has the 51% of share of ownership, you can say government has just disinvested or sold the shares to the private party. It's only has been disinvested. Now, what is the implication of this disinvestment? The implication is this disinvestment is a source of revenue. By selling those 49% share to the private parties, government is earning what? Money. In case of 50-50, then it's jointly owned by public and private. Okay. But generally what government does, either keep 51 so that it is government owned, or keep 49 or less than that, because now it has been fully privatized. Okay. Now, it's a source of revenue. It comes under this category, reduce financial assets. Now, what is the meaning of that? These shares of 49% which were sold by the government, these are what? Assets. Share of assets, or assets in terms of share, which was earlier owned by the government. Why it is asset? Because it is giving revenue to the government. So why it is reduced the financial assets? Because now the government ownership has reduced. So in a way, one source of capital receipt is it creates liability. That means you are taking loan from the market. The second one is reduce financial assets, means whatever assets you had, you are just reducing these financial assets by selling those assets to the private party. This is one. Second, I think I have already told you what is the difference between disinvestment and privatization. Never confuse with these two words, disinvestment and privatization, because these are these terms are used frequently in the newspaper. Thorough on these two concepts, then use these words, because if you use these words lightly or very loosely, then examiner will judge you that you have not understood properly to these concepts, and your answer will be a different one. Okay. So this is the difference between disinvestment and privatization. Now, these key words, I think you must have understood it. Now, second two key words again I am highlighting before you. One is debt creating, which we will use in the future, debt creating, and second key term is non-debt creating. One is debt creating, another one is your non-debt creating. Now, tell me, what is this debt creating? Simply the liability, the loan you are taking from the market. Non-debt creating means simply this is not debt creating, because it is not creating any kind of debt for the government. Simply you are selling the financial assets to the private parties and you are getting the revenue or capital or the money. So this disinvestment comes under this non-debt creating assets or non-debt creating. This is loan coming under this debt creating. These key terms we will use in the future. So please try to understand these terms carefully. We'll use it in future. Okay? Debt creating and non-debt creating. Okay? Now, I think I hope you have understood it, or any doubt in this, please let me know. If you have any doubt, please let me know. So receipt we have already discussed. One is your revenue receipt. Under that revenue receipt, we discussed the tax and non-tax. Under this capital receipt, we discuss this liability, which creates liability and reduce the financial assets of the government, or debt and non-debt creating. Now, coming to the second aspect, classification of expenditure. Expenditure side, receipt side we have discussed. Now the expenditure side. Similarly, we have divided revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Now, please tell me what comes under this revenue expenditure. One by one, please. Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure, please tell me. For your understanding, let me give you one example. Suppose your father is the only bread earner in your family, and your father use some money to run your family and save some money so that in future he can invest in some project so that some asset will be created. I repeat, some amount which your father uses to run your family, some amount which is used by your father or to create a physical asset in future. So he saves some money and in future he will invest it to create some physical asset. Similarly, to run a government also needs money, like for the day-to-day functions. Suppose salaries to the government employees, those who have got the retirement, pensions for the government employees, defense expenditure. Now this new channels are comparing which country spends how much money in the defense because of this Russia and Ukraine war. So you need to have, to protect your country, you need to spend some money for this defense. Salaries, pensions, okay? For the welfare activities, you need to spend on the subsidies, because state or government, the role of government is to achieve the welfare of the people. The people who cannot afford those goods and services, you are providing at a subsidized rate. So that amount is also spent by the government. So these are the expenditure which comes under this revenue side. So these are revenue expenditure. Suppose the government has taken a loan from the market. Against that loan, government has to pay the interest rate. That also comes under this revenue expenditure. So salaries, pension, interest, defense expenditure, subsidies, these are coming under this revenue expenditure. Now, apart from these, one category which we need to understand it properly, because it's quite confusing. If that option will come in your paper, prelims paper, you must not confuse with that. Let me tell you, I think some amount are given by government or the union government to the state government. For what? State government also have to run, like those state government officials, they also get some salary, they also get pensions, okay? State government is also providing subsidies. So union government or the central government, I think you know the federal structure of our country, that union government also provide grants to the state government. So these grants are used by state government for two purposes specifically. One, to run the government or to run the day-to-day government affairs like salaries, pension, etc. So one is that category. Another is sometimes the state governments use this grant to build some kind of physical infrastructure or physical asset, or you can say simply creation of assets. Although it is a very minimal amount is invested for the creation of asset, but still government does that. Even if government use that grants to build that asset, still we give that grants amount or the amount of money which is received by the state government under this revenue side. We do not keep this under the capital side, we keep it under the revenue side. Are you getting my point? I repeat this point. Some amounts are given by the union government to the state government for the same purposes, like salaries, pensions, or interest which is taken by the loan taken by the state government, they also give the interest. For that purpose, union government provides fund to the state government. Although state government, some amount are used for this, state government also use that amount for the creation of asset. Even if state government use that fund for the creation of asset, we put that category under this revenue expenditure side, because large amount is used for this purpose only. Are you getting my point? So if this particular point comes to comes in the suppose UPSC can ask which of the following are coming under or comes under this revenue expenditure, and there is a point, grants given to state government and other parties. Although those grants are used for the creation of asset, we keep it under revenue expenditure. Clear or any doubt till now? So today we discussed what is the, we started this fiscal policy, a fresh topic. What was the objective of it? What are the functions of the government? Okay. We discussed what are the, we discussed under this budget what are the different categories of this receipts and expenditure. We discussed this tax and non-tax revenue. We again discussed that capital receipts part, and then we started discussing this classification of expenditure. Under that we discussed this revenue expenditure. We will discuss beyond or after this tomorrow. So if of any doubt, any query, please let me know. If of any doubt, any query, please let me know. Let me open that question file. Yes. So now please answer. I think we have already discussed what is the meaning of fiscal policy. What should be the right answer? Anyone? What should be the right answer? Yes, C is the correct answer, because use of taxation, one such component or entity of public, or you can say the fiscal policy. Public borrowing is one such, and public expenditure by government for purposes of stabilization or development. Okay, so this is the C is the right answer. Was given B. B is not the right answer, because establishing equilibrium between demand and supply of goods and services, it's simply the market forces. It determines the price level. It's not the fiscal policy. Okay. Now, please tell me, fiscal policy in India is formulated by which board or which authority? Do you think SEBI does that? Do you think SEBI does that? Anyone? Do you think SEBI does that? SEBI deals with this financial market. So SEBI does not deal with this fiscal policy. It's a regulatory authority. Clear? Finance Ministry, do you think this is the authority which does that? Fiscal policy? Yes. C is the right answer. Who is given A? Amit has given the A. Reserve Bank of India deals with this monetary policy. Supply of money, if you want to regulate through this monetary policy by using your CRR, SLR, repo, reverse repo, that can be done by RBI. So this is monetary policy. Planning Commission, it simply provides the plan. Now it is not there. Now Niti Aayog has replaced this Planning Commission. So it provides the plan. But Finance Ministry, which prepares the budget and executes this tax and public expenditure. how many ministries are there under finance ministry? Anybody can answer? How many ministries are there under this finance ministry? Anyone? How many departments are there under this finance ministry? Anybody? There are multiple departments under this finance ministry. What are they and how many? And which department deals with this budget, or you can say simply produce budget or prepares this budget? Which department? Okay, yes, Department of Revenue is there. Department of Expenditure is there. Okay. What are other departments? Yes, budget is prepared and presented by Department of Economic Affairs. That's true. Budget is prepared and presented by Department of Economic Affairs. The same with the economic survey also. Economic survey is also prepared by Department of Economic Affairs and presented by the same department. Okay. So just find out what are the other departments of this under this finance ministry. So finance ministry is the right answer who prepares this fiscal policy. Yes, Department of Financial Services is another. Akash, Commerce and Industry is a separate ministry. So don't confuse with that. Just open the Ministry of Finance and you will find all the departments there only. This will discuss in our latter. This will also discuss in our next class. I think we'll discuss it. Fiscal stimulus will also discuss. So we'll solve these questions when we'll complete these topics. Okay. So any doubt you have, please let me know. If you have any kind of doubt or any query. Test will be there. So just after this session, you can access your test or daily test from your portal. After this session, you can access your notes from your portal as well. Okay. Apart from this, if you have any other query or any other doubt, please let me know. I think I have already given my number to you. So whatever you have any doubt or any query, you can ask me. So let's end this session only. And tomorrow we'll continue our discussion under this fiscal policy. So thank you very much. We'll just appear for the test, and test is Jyoti, yes, the economics will be there for whole week. So thank you very much.